They said it was a fairy tale, but what if the fairy tale came with sealed files, whispered names, and a clock ticking louder than anyone dared admit? London isn't just fog and palace gates anymore. It's tension. It's side eyes in marble hallways. It's the kind of silence that screams. Because behind the polished smiles and carefully worded statements, a storm has been building, and now the doors of a courtroom have cracked it open. This isn't about interviews, not about podcasts, not about who said what on which sofa. This is deeper, older, more dangerous. This is about bloodlines, timelines, and a question that refuses to stay buried. And at the center of it all stands a man with a notebook and a reputation for never swinging unless he's ready to land the punch, Tom Bower. He didn't walk in waving drama. He walked in carrying documents, dates, and a theory so explosive it made seasoned observers forget how to breathe. Because suddenly the conversation wasn't did they upset the palace? It became, what if the palace was sitting on something much bigger all along? Eyes shifted, shoulders tightened, and the spotlight moved to a period many thought was ancient history, 2013 to 2018. Old years, old relationships, old connections that, according to Bower's analysis, may not have been as old as everyone believed. Enter a name that was supposed to stay in the past, Trevor Engelson. To the public, he was a closed chapter, a pre-royal life footnote. But in this new narrative unfolding under legal lights, he's being painted as something else entirely, not just an ex, but a lingering presence, a shadow that may have stretched further into the future than anyone admitted. Bower's angle isn't emotional, it's mechanical. Dates, travel overlaps, communication gaps that suddenly don't look like coincidences anymore. In his version of events, the glossy image of a clean break starts to blur at the edges. And when timelines blur in royal territory, people start whispering words like protocol, records, and verification. Because here's where the temperature really rises. Royal births are not casual affairs. Historically, they come wrapped in layers of procedure, witnesses, documentation, the kind of formality designed to remove doubt before doubt is even born. But now, critics are circling moments that felt different. Missing signatures, altered wording, details that on their own might mean nothing, but together, they form a question mark no one can ignore. And in this drama, the most tragic figure isn't the woman under scrutiny, it's the prince. The man who walked away from crowns, titles, protection, all in the name of love and family. In Bower's telling, he becomes a man possibly defending a reality he never had full access to. A knight charging into battle without ever seeing the whole battlefield. Bower doesn't shout, he suggests, he builds. He asks, would a strategist ever completely cut ties with the past before securing the future? Would someone stepping into the most scrutinized institution on Earth leave loose ends? Or would they manage every variable with precision? That's the heart of the allegation, not chaos, strategy. Then comes the part that turns gossip into constitutional tremors. Because if the whispers about overlapping relationships and timing have any truth, even a sliver, this isn't celebrity scandal, this is succession. Legacy, the legal definition of who belongs where in a line that stretches back centuries. Bower frames the 2020 royal exit not just as an escape from press pressure, but as something colder, tactical, a relocation beyond the traditional reach of royal medical oversight. A move from stone walls and strict protocols to a place where privacy laws are ironclad and questions are harder to legally force into daylight. California, in this lens, isn't freedom, it's a fortress. Meanwhile, back in Britain, another bombshell quietly pulses beneath the surface. The claim that a private heritage verification process may have already taken place years ago. Not public, not announced. Allegedly sealed away in palace vaults, known only to the highest levels of the institution. If that's true, then the silence isn't ignorance, it's containment. And that's where the palace's role becomes its own moral maze. Reveal everything and risk shaking the monarchy's foundation? Or stay silent and let speculation grow like wildfire? Stability versus transparency, survival versus truth. Bower suggests they chose silence, not to protect feelings, but to protect the structure. But silence has a price. And now, years later, that bill may be coming due in a courtroom where journalists aren't just reporting, they're testifying. Publicly, under oath. Which raises the question echoing louder by the day. If these claims are nonsense, why hasn't the fastest solution happened? One test, one independent verification, one document to end it all. Instead, there's quiet. And in the world of high-stakes power, quiet doesn't calm people down. It makes them lean closer. Because this story has moved beyond tabloids. Legal experts are murmuring about constitutional implications. Parliament watchers are paying attention. The idea that genetic legitimacy could become a matter of national procedure no longer sounds like fiction. And through it all, the image that lingers is deeply human. A father, a child, a family built on belief. And the horrifying possibility, however remote, however contested, that belief in biology might not be perfectly aligned. That's the emotional core Bowers' narrative keeps circling back to. Not villains, not heroes, just people standing on ground that may not be as solid as they thought. The courtroom doors may close at the end of each day, but outside, the conversation is only getting louder. Because whether this is the greatest misunderstanding of the decade or the beginning of a historic reckoning, one thing is certain, the fairy tale ending has been replaced by a giant, flashing question mark. And nobody, not the palace, not the press, not even the prince himself, can pretend they don't see it anymore. Because once the first shockwave hit, the story stopped being about what happened and started being about who can afford the truth. The courtroom drama may have paused for the day, but outside those heavy doors, the real battle is psychological, legal, strategic. Every side staring at the other like chess players who suddenly realize the board might flip. Tom Bowers' narrative didn't just rattle reputations, it cornered everyone into a decision trap. If the allegations are false, the obvious move would seem simple. Sue, fight, demand retractions, force evidence into the open. But legal warfare at that level is a double-edged sword. Because court doesn't just hear arguments, it opens files, it compels disclosures, it drags private records into fluorescent light and asks them to speak. And that's the paradox now hovering over Montecito like coastal fog. Fight publicly and risk doors opening that can't be closed. Stay silent and let speculation grow teeth. Observers are calling it the most high-stakes game of legal chicken in modern royal history. Because silence here doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like calculation, the kind where every option comes with a cost measured not just in headlines, but in history books. Meanwhile, back in London, palace insiders, the kind who never speak on record but always somehow shape the narrative, are said to be watching with the stillness of people who have survived scandals before. But this one? This one hits differently. Financial controversies can be managed. Public relations disasters can be softened. Even abdications have precedent. But questions, however disputed, however controversial, that brush against lineage, that touches the one thing monarchies are built on: continuity, legitimacy, the unbroken thread. That's why this story, whether proven or disproven, has already crossed a line. It's no longer celebrity drama, it's institutional vulnerability. And in the middle of it stands Harry, not as a rebel prince or media target, but as a man who may be confronting the terrifying possibility that love, loyalty, and truth don't always travel in a neat package. Imagine waking up each day knowing the world is debating the foundation of your family while you're legally unable or strategically unwilling to shout back. That kind of pressure doesn't just bruise reputations, it erodes trust from the inside out. Some analysts say the real tragedy here isn't what's being alleged, it's the emotional isolation created by the storm. Because when every conversation becomes a legal risk, and every friend becomes a potential witness, your world shrinks fast. Then there's Meghan, portrayed by critics as a master strategist, by supporters as a woman relentlessly targeted, and by neutral observers as someone who has always played hardball when protecting her image. Which makes the current quiet feel unusual. Historically, she's fought lawsuits over photos, letters, privacy breaches, swift, decisive, unapologetic. So the absence of an immediate, crushing legal response to Bowers' claims is what keeps fueling late-night debates and panel show arguments. Is the silence strength? Legal advice? Or simply a refusal to dignify what supporters call baseless attacks? No one outside the inner circle truly knows. And that vacuum of certainty? That's where gossip thrives, mutates, and spreads. But here's the part that keeps constitutional scholars up at night. Not because they believe rumors, but because of what happens when rumors reach critical mass. If public doubt grows loud enough, pressure builds for official clarity. And official clarity in a monarchy isn't delivered through press conferences. It comes through procedures, committees, quiet but powerful mechanisms designed to protect the system, not the feelings of individuals. That's why murmurs of institutional review and succession protocols are starting to surface in serious discussions, not as accusations, but as contingency planning. The monarchy has survived for centuries by preparing for storms before clouds fully form. And whether this storm turns out to be lightning or just loud thunder, the preparation itself tells the story. The media, of course, is in overdrive. Every facial expression outside a courthouse gets analyzed. Every recycled quote becomes new context. Old footage resurfaces like ghosts, edited with dramatic music and captions that scream certainty where none exists. But beneath the noise, one truth remains. No verified evidence has been publicly produced to confirm the most explosive parts of Bauer's theory. That gap between allegation and proof is where responsible voices urge caution, while gossip channels sprint in the opposite direction. Still, the damage of doubt is unique. It doesn't need confirmation to change perception. It just needs repetition. And that's why reputations here are hanging in a strange limbo, not destroyed, not cleared, just suspended in a cloud of what if. For Harry, the narrative now being written around him is painfully ironic. A man who fled an institution he believed weaponized the press now finds himself trapped in a global conversation he can't control, fueled by the very mechanisms he tried to escape. For Meghan, the stakes are brand, legacy, and the carefully constructed image of resilience and empowerment. Allegations, even unproven, don't just challenge personal history, they threaten the architecture of a public identity built over years. And for the monarchy, this is a reminder that modern transparency is a force even crowns can't fully command. Stone walls don't stop digital speculation. Titles don't silence trending hashtags. The old rule was never complain, never explain. But we're in an era where never explaining sometimes explains too much. So now the world waits, not just for court outcomes, but for strategic moves. A lawsuit filed or not filed. A statement released or not released. Each decision will be read like a clue in a mystery where everyone thinks they already know the ending. Maybe this will all fade, remembered as another overblown chapter in the endless saga of royal scrutiny. Or maybe historians will look back at this moment as the point where modern media power forced ancient institutions to redefine how truth, privacy, and legitimacy coexist. Right now, no one can say which. But one thing is certain, the fairy tale narrative is gone. In its place is a high-stakes chessboard where love stories, legal strategies, and national symbolism are all tangled together. And the next move? It won't just shape headlines, it could shape history.